Think we're ready to go now.
Cool.
This is exciting. Okay. Collect yourself. Okay. Devon Zoolander and Devon Caudle, take one and action. Yo, what do they call me? Oh, this is right here. Okay, whatever. I just have it right here. Yo, what do they call me? They call me Devon Zoolander. What's good for the goose is good for the gander. Yeah, they call me Devon Zoolander. What's good for the goose is good for the gander. And I look good on camera. You know I look good on camera. Yo, what's up? It's your homie, Devon Zoolander, coming all the way live from Philadelphia, PA, my hometown. But people from Philly don't actually say Philadelphia. We say Philly, you know what I'm saying? I'm a Philly boy. But anyway, I'm so happy to be here today at Kismet Radio because I have the honor of interviewing a woman that I admire a lot for all of her professional accomplishments, someone who is from Philadelphia just like me, born and raised, someone that went to a HBCU just like me, so we got that in common, and also someone who shares the same name that I do, and she spells it a really cool way. Without further ado, please put your hands together for the co-founding partner of CNC Property Management, the one and only Devon Caudle.
Hi, thanks for having me, Devon.
Oh, no problem.
This is fun. It's always nice to meet other Devons.
Yes, it really is. And that's why I like the last question is like, you know, who is your favorite Devon? Because I have to know, like, what person named Devon do you really like?
Do you want me to answer that now or wait till the end?
I want you to answer it now.
I like Devon Aoki, the model. She was in a Fast and the Furious movie.
Okay, I got you.
She's half Japanese.
Okay.
That's my favorite Devon because I don't meet girl Devons often.
Right. Okay, that's a good answer.
She's my favorite famous Devon.
Your favorite famous Devon.
Who's yours?
Devon
Sawa.
Yeah, I said that in the notes, but I would have to say I think Devon from Drumline. I think I connect.
I forgot that was his name.
Yeah, and also I think there was a Devon in, is it Kindergarten Cop? I forgot. There's some movie back in it.
No, I haven't seen that in a long time.
Yeah, but there's definitely another Devon. And to get really random right here and maybe showing my age a little bit, I believe that Khadijah on Living Single dated a dude named Devon. He had like a gray streak in his hair. But I might be making stuff up. But anyway, I'm glad that we got to say that. But now to move on with the interview portion of this exchange, I have to start with an icebreaker. So I would like for you to play Two Truths and a Lie.
This is my least favorite icebreaker, but I will play with you.
All right, I appreciate that. Thank you.
So I start first. Okay. So, and you know why I don't like it? Because I feel like you could kind of figure out where the lie is by where people place it. But anyway, let's see. I was on the varsity weightlifting team. I was born in Philadelphia, and I got accepted to every school I applied to for college.
All right. I think the lie is that you were on the varsity weightlifting team.
Incorrect. I was born in Fayetteville, North Carolina. My dad was in the Army.
Oh my gosh. Like J. Cole.
Yes.
And Moray and all those people there. Oh my gosh.
But I don't know anything about Fayetteville. I lived there for like the first 6 months of my life. But that's where I was born. Okay.
All right.
Yeah.
Everybody beats me every time. And it's a tough pill to swallow because I come up with the icebreaker. And then this new phenomenon has been happening lately where people are like, okay, you go too. I'm just like, but if I play, I'm terrible with this. All right. I do it real quick because we got to move. All right. So let's say, okay. I went to a Black History camp when I was a child. I was a mascot in college, and let's see, I was a mascot in college, went to Black History camp as a kid, and my favorite color is purple.
I'm going to say that you were active on campus, but in another capacity. So were you a mascot or no?
I was a mascot.
Okay,
Yeah.
which one is the lie? The color?
Yeah.
That was my second guess.
Yeah, my favorite color is green.
Okay, mine
Yeah.
too.
Oh, see, look, another similarity. So look, we both named Dev. Both our favorite color is green. We both went to HBCUs. We both from Philly. You know, I see the connection, but I'm just glad you understand what's going on. So to move on with the formal interview part, I would like for you to tell me about your experience growing up in Philadelphia. What neighborhood did you grow up in? What high school did you go to? And just tell me overall, how did you spend your summers?
Sure. So I was actually thinking about this a lot, especially with, you know, Juneteenth becoming an official national holiday. Just thinking about how we as African Americans are such a huge part of the history of this country, but it just gets glossed over so much. So I'm a product of what's referred to as the Great Migration. On my maternal side, my great grandmother was born and is from Lumberton, North Carolina. My great grandfather is from Elizabethtown, North Carolina. They're both actually pretty close to Fayetteville. They're right off of I-95 South. So they were from North Carolina. My great grandfather, he was actually a World War II veteran. He was a cook on a Navy ship because Black people during World War II were only allowed to be in service type jobs in the military. So he was in the Navy, but he was a cook. Then when he came back, they had my grandmother, and as many people in the South did around that time, she was born in 1942, so they decided to move to Philadelphia, move up north. So they came up here, I want to say, maybe when my grandmother was 2 or something, so maybe it was 1944-ish, and they lived in the Richard Allen projects, the old ones, not the new ones, but my great-grandparents and my grandmother, they lived in the Richard Allen projects. Then after they had the rest of their kids, my aunt and my 2 uncles, they ended up buying a house in 1952 on Venango Street, the 1800 block of Venango. Okay. So I'm from Tioga, Nicetown area, which is interesting as well because after the Great Migration, then came what they referred to as white flight, where there was a lot of fear-mongering and a lot of predatory lending in the real estate industry, redlining, all different kinds of stuff that would take forever if I dive deep into. Anyway, when my great-grandparents moved to Venango Street in 1952, it was a beautiful tree-lined street, huge homes that, you know, a lot of homeowners who were building their families were proud to buy, and it was just a different block. And so as, you know, urban plight and white flight took place in the neighborhood, I remember growing up, my great-grandmother would just remind me, because a lot of people refer to where I'm from as the hood, the ghetto. She would say that this is just a Black neighborhood. It's not ghetto, it's not the hood, it's a Black neighborhood. And I think what she meant by that was that it's she saw all the change happen, you know what I mean? So it's not that people want what's going on to happen, it just did because it's Black, you know? So, yeah. So that's where I'm from. But I bounced a lot between Orlando and Philadelphia. Sorry, because my great-grandmother just recently passed in 2015 and we were really close.
Sorry.
It's okay. So anytime I bring her up, I get a little, sentimental. Yeah. But I bounced back and forth a lot between Philadelphia and Orlando. So I actually went to high school in Orlando, and that's how I ended up at FAMU because my number one choice was Xavier. It's a HBCU that's Catholic. I'm Catholic from my dad's side, though. So that was my number one choice, but I graduated in 06. Hurricane Katrina happened in 05.
Right.
So obviously I had to shift things around, and I ended up going to Florida State and then actually ended up at FAMU. And I had in-state tuition, so that's why I stayed in Florida, because I went to Boone High School in Orlando. So yeah, been up and down the East Coast, as you can see, and my family is from, Philly, I guess you could say Orlando to North Carolina,
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I definitely appreciate all of that because it's really important in shaping the person that you are today. So I appreciate the history lesson. I appreciate how you answered it in a lot of detail because I think that a lot of my audience will appreciate your journey because even though now it's like you're fully entrenched in Philly and you're fully entrenched in helping people to find good properties for whatever they want to do, whether they want to have a commercial business or they just want to have a new home. I appreciate how you've come full circle from being born in Fayetteville to living in Philly part of your youth, to going down to Florida, to going to college down there, to gaining some experiences down there, to being back in Philly. So yeah. I appreciate that. To move on, I want to ask you, as a fellow HBCU alum, what inspired you to attend FAMU?
So like I said, so I was supposed to go to Xavier. I was, at that time in high school, I wanted to be an orthodontist. Xavier's a very science major heavy university, and again, it's Black and it's Catholic, so that's just where I just thought I was gonna go. I kind of fell into staying in Florida by default due to Hurricane Katrina. My sister's godmom graduated from Florida State, so I just went there because, like I said, I got accepted there, and Auburn, that's where my sister's dad went. I just applied to like schools that I didn't really have a lot of direction when it came to picking the whole college thing. So I just applied to stuff that people who I liked went to, you know? So then I ended up going to Florida State because I had this scholarship called Bright Futures where they paid for like your tuition if you went to a state university school. And Florida State, that didn't go too well. I took a break from school around 2010. Then when I was ready to go back full-time as a student, I chose to go to FAMU because, again, initially I wanted the HBCU experience, but life derailed me. And then at that point, I had an AA already, so if I transferred into FAMU, I would be starting with the clean slate. So I was like, let's go to a new school.
What's an AA?
My associate's degree.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I had enough credits when I stopped going to school that when I picked back up, it was like, I only had to go for 2 years.
Gotcha.
So I ended up transferring into FAMU from Florida State after I took a break from school. And it was the best thing I ever did. Like, I needed the clean slate. I was glad that I did that. Yeah.
Great.
Yeah.
Well, I appreciate that because as someone that went to Cheney University and is definitely proud about that, I understand that there are those out there that don't really understand. They don't understand Juneteenth. They don't understand BET. They don't understand why when Russell Wilson wins the Super Bowl, how a lot of us at our age, like we weren't really watching football when Doug Williams was the only starting quarterback to win it back in like 88. So to see Russell win it in 2014, it did something different to us. So a lot of people don't even understand what is the purpose of an HBCU. So I really appreciate you sharing what inspired you to attend one.
Yeah, or even just the fact that Cheney and FAMU, a lot of HBCUs get a bad reputation. They're a party school, whatever. But when you go to an HBCU or when you have family members who attend them, you realize that a lot of those rumors are seeded in anti-Blackness. But outside of that, those schools give students second chances. Students who weren't, great academically in high school. A lot of times schools like FAMU, Cheney, they have programs where you can go in the summer and kind of prove yourself and then get admitted in the fall. And it's not a prove yourself thing. They do help you. They show you how to study. They align you with a mentor, things like that. And it's like those programs build Black excellence. If it wasn't for HBCUs, none of the stuff that Black people have today would be around. That was where we used to have to go back in the day. And I feel like in our present times, it still breeds excellence for students who are sometimes left to the wayside.
Yeah.
If it wasn't for their HBCU giving them a second chance and an opportunity to go to college, they would be repeating those same cycles of poverty that they come from.
Yeah, and that's an excellent point, and I don't want to get too far off on a tangent on this next point, but when you talked about the importance of HBCUs given African Americans, and obviously there have been other people that aren't Black that attend HBCUs, just because we see like with classism and the way that maybe elite white people can treat white people that are low income, like they can be just as grimy to them. I won't say the same because it's different when you're Black, but in a similar fashion where it's like you're lower than us. And I think that obviously this is a story for a lot of us in the Black community, but I feel like there are also some people that know what it's like to be on the lower rung of their own race they know what that's like. So to move forward on, let's see, am I going to ask this question? Okay. What inspired you to pursue a career as a licensed realtor?
So real estate, I kind of fell into as well. But that was also a full circle moment because at one point when I was at Florida State, I actually was an RA at an off-campus student housing high-rise. So when I moved back home in 2015, I hadn't lived in Philly full time since like 2008 or something. So, and back then I worked at ShopRite. I was in a summer
mad
camp.
Different.
And so, now me coming back as an adult and like with a degree, needless to say, I didn't want to go back to ShopRite on Aramingo Avenue. So I started networking, doing gig work. I had a hospitality background. So I started working at Davio's, which is like a fine dining restaurant downtown. And I started doing catered events at universities and at weddings and things like that to try to network and kind of see, try to find opportunities that way. And I did. One of my regulars at Davio's when I was cocktail waitressing and hostessing, he asked me, one day he was like, you always have this great attitude. You're so pleasant. Like, what do you do other than this? Because I know this isn't just it. And I was like, well, I look for real jobs when I'm not here. Yeah. And so they offered me a full-time position as an office coordinator at The Edge, which is the off-campus student housing right across from Temple. So that's what launched me into real estate, multifamily, the multifamily industry. So there are a lot of different facets of real estate. The one that people are most familiar with, obviously, is residential. I'm getting married, I'm having a baby, let's buy a house, right? That's the one that people are most familiar with. But the building we're in now, that's in the commercial sector, where I got my start in college and as a professional, is in the multifamily sector. And multifamily is anything that's 5 units or above. So all of the big high rises downtown, the small 3-story walk-up apartment buildings that have 6 units, that's multifamily. So. Okay.
I appreciate that. Because, wow, that's a lot. I'm just trying to take it in right now. And may I say also that it's really pleasant to do this with you because your colors are popping right now. I appreciate that's a good choice. All right. So to move along, I would like for you to elaborate on what is the biggest myth that you hear about investing in real estate?
That you need a lot of access to capital or a lot of capital. There are a lot of different ways to get involved in real estate investing without having a ton of access to capital. And I think that a lot of people aren't aware of it. So in the day and times that we're in right now, it's not that the knowledge isn't out there. It's the line between people who need to know the knowledge and the knowledge that bridge isn't there. So that's kind of some of the stuff that I like to do with the topics that I choose to talk about. So monthly I do a thing on my page called Wind Down Wednesday where I'm just educating people on different topics. It's the education piece, right? The people educating the people who are interested in the different ways that they can get involved. So basically, depending on your situation, there are a lot of different ways that you can get involved in real estate investing. Probably the easiest way is to get an owner-occupied loan, something like an FHA loan, where you only have to put 3.5% down. So it's not, you only need like $5,000 or something, right? Something very attainable. So you get an FHA loan, you live in a house in a neighborhood that is appreciating in value. You live there for a year. You have to through FHA, right? So you live there for a year, then after a year you take another $5,000 or whatever, buy another house, and you owner occupy that one and you rent out the other one. Now you're an investor. That's probably the easiest way. Then another way that people can get involved in real estate investing without a lot of money is wholesaling. But that takes a lot more work because you have to do a lot of calling, a lot of sending out mailers, a lot of knocking on doors. So what wholesalers do is they attain a property off the market, right? They meet someone who owns a property and they tell them, hey, I want to buy your property. So they get the property under contract. Then they assign the contract to a qualified buyer with more capital for a fee. So I'll give you an example. This market, as everyone's heard, is crazy. It's a seller's market, right? Sellers have the upper hand. So if you are a buyer, you would be willing to pay a wholesaler $5,000, $10,000 for finding you a home that's undervalued because it's not at market rate. They got it straight from the supplier. They're the wholesaler.
Yeah.
So they get the inventory for very low, and then they flip it. So that's a good way to get involved. Then you save those proceeds and then you go start buying assets. Don't just wholesale and just, spend all your cash. Make sure that you are, if your long-term goal is to invest, that you are acquiring some assets while you're making all this cash wholesaling. But that one it's a little more labor intensive and it takes a little bit of time to get started, but you can definitely get a lot of money in a short period of time wholesaling.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So those are just two. Oh, or being an Airbnb host.
Yeah.
If you live in a 2-bedroom apartment, or if you bought a single family home through a program like FHA or something, rent out one of the rooms, rent out the basement, and start saving the proceeds from your Airbnb business and then go buy something. So there are a lot of low cost ways to get involved.
Right. So the myth that you need a lot of capital is certainly a myth. And people need to really, if they have questions, they need to be able to ask people like yourself.
Correct.
Or to be willing to look up some information. Correct. So even if they're asking you a question, it's like, hey, Dev, I was checking out this article right here that was talking about working with a wholesaler, and I have some questions about that. What do you think about this?
Right. They would need to, you're asking me that?
Okay. I was just kind of, sorry. Yeah. I was just kind of like summarizing like what the process would be if they believe falsely that you need a lot of capital to invest, in the steps they would take in order to dispel that myth.
Right. Just fact check it. Whatever, obviously there's a bunch of trash on the internet. Whatever you find, just fact check it with the industry professional. And you'll find that sometimes the information is true and good, and sometimes it's not.
All right. So on February 5th, 2019, you and fellow licensed realtor Amani Rule. What is it?
Amani Rule.
Okay. You and fellow licensed realtor Amani Rule became founding partners of CNC Property Management. So what separates CNC from other property management companies?
Sure. So CNC stands for Community and Care. So we both have hospitality and property management backgrounds. Between the two of us, we've worked in so many different facets in the industry, from office managers to leasing managers, leasing associates, property managers, front desk concierge. Between the two of us, we've done pretty much every job there is to do in property management. So we started by helping my grandmother. She is an owner-occupied landlord. She lives in a duplex. She lives on the bottom floor, has a tenant upstairs, and then she owns her childhood home she grew up in West, another house in West, and another house uptown, right? And she's 80 years old.
Wow.
So we started by just helping her manage her portfolio. So around 2017, 2018, we were helping my grandmother, and then we kind of thought together, we were like, we can probably make this a thing. Because we were having the same issue that a lot of people face, is we want to invest. We don't want to just manage somebody else's $1 million asset for the rest of our lives. We want to invest, and own some buildings too. Like, we have the knowledge, we should be developers, right? So initially the idea was to start a property management company to have another income stream, save those profits to then invest and do in-house management for our assets. In doing this business, we found that not only was it beneficial to us, we could also serve our community. So gentrification is rapidly happening in Philadelphia. In Philadelphia, traditionally, a lot of people would move away from the city. They would have an aunt, a grandparent, something like that pass away, and they would kind of just let the house, deteriorate, become part of the city's inventory, whatever, which, that's not through any fault of their own. If your life is in Atlanta, there's no reason for you to be trying to come back and save this house in Philadelphia. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So, but now we found that similarly to how people don't know that you don't have to have 10 or 20% saved to buy a house, you don't have to take on all of the heavy lifting when it comes to being a landlord. That's what we're here to help, So there are a lot of people who, one of our favorite clients, he inherited a home in Southwest and King Sessing from his uncle. And he's like, I could fix it up, but I don't know what to do after that. So that's where we kind of bridge the gap to help Black people retain their wealth. Real estate is one of the easiest ways to attain wealth, like especially generational wealth. It's pretty low risk. Like I stated previously, you don't need that much access to capital. You just need one house to start, right? And then it kind of balloons from there. Yeah. So he had this house he inherited. So we walk people through the whole process. We will help you get your rental license so that you're a legitimate landlord who has the power to evict tenants. We help you get the proper insurance you need. We find the qualified tenants for you because vetting people is very important. A lot of small-time landlords or people who aren't familiar with managing properties, because again, it's just a knowledge thing. Somebody will come off the street and be like, oh, I can pay you 6 months ahead of time. Of course, me, as a regular person, I'm like, that's great. I will get $12,000 right now. A lot of those people are scammers. They'll become squatters. It can turn into a whole thing. You need to properly vet people. Anybody who's like, I want to move immediately, I can pay 6 months right away. There's something going on there. Yeah. They probably have been evicted previously. There's a lot of, so we teach landlords how to properly vet tenants that you actually want to retain, because the name of the business with long-term single-family investing is you want to get a good tenant in there who takes care of your property, pays rent on time, and have them stay there as long as possible. So we help them through that whole process, and in the end, it's a symbiotic relationship. We provide hands-off management, and then we get paid a fee, but then also we're helping to, in a small scale, stop some of what's going on, because we're helping people who acquired properties, and don't know what to do with them, keep them and grow their portfolio and different things like that. So yeah, it's really, it's hard work, yeah, but we do love it. It's a passion project of ours. And I'm actually in an incubator program right now with Black Girl Ventures. And it's a Black and brown woman founder incubator. It's about like a 8 or 9 month program, but I'm involved in that right now. I'm a Black Girl Ventures fellow, and they're really helping us to, really solidify our systems, get access to capital, pair us with mentors and coaches, so that women, Black and brown founders, are able to be successful in entrepreneurship. So that's another thing. There's people who are interested in starting a business. There are a lot of resources too that people don't know about. Everybody thinks you need a ton of money to start a business, but me and Amani, we just started off the muscle, we just took our full-time, we didn't leave our full-time jobs. We just poured our extra money into our business and just started, and then obviously 2 years later we were like, oh, we don't have to do that. There's people who will give us money and teach us how to be business people. Great. Right. So, yeah. But yeah, there's so much out there. It's just, again, that bridging that gap between the people who need the knowledge and the people who have the knowledge. So that's kind of what I've been placed here to do.